If you wrote this as a script for Hollywood, they'd say it's impossible. Yet here we are.
Beginning life as an innocuous TV special and growing into the most anticipated date on WWE's calendar, the Royal Rumble has endured as one of the company's most steadfast creations. The Rumble match itself rarely fails to disappoint, while the undercard typically features at least one match worth seeking out after it's all said and done. With an almost 40-year history, however, comes a plethora of facts to uncover, some mundane, but others legitimately shocking. Join us now as WrestleMania looks at one mind-blowing fact from every single WWE Royal Rumble. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. In 1988, it was the only Rumble held outside of the US. Now, under Vince McMahon's leadership, it was rare for major WWE programming such as Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-views to emanate outside of the United States of America. And if they did, it would typically be Canada that received first dibs on hosting rights. Such was the case with the inaugural Royal Rumble event in 1988, which actually took place at the Copps Coliseum, now the TD Coliseum, in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. As it stands, this 38-year-old record will finally be shattered in January 2026, as the Royal Rumble will be held in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And sadly, if you're thinking about the greatest Royal Rumble being in Saudi Arabia, the greatest Royal Rumble isn't canon to the series. In 1989, the first appearance of the Royal Rumble buzzer. Now, there may be things euphoric about the Royal Rumble match, but one of the most enduring has been the countdown to the next entrant. The numbered chants, the buzzer, and the opening sting of a wrestler's entrance theme combining and sending the crowd into a frenzy creates an atmosphere that nothing else in the industry has ever been able to match. However, weirdly enough, it wasn't until the second Royal Rumble match that the iconic buzzer was first heard. More confusingly, it wasn't used to signal the arrival of the match's third entrant, Andre the Giant, as has become common practice. Instead, it was Mr. Perfect, entrant number 4, who was the first buzzed-in entrant. A Perfect's entrance also marked the first appearance of the on-screen 10-second clock, which has also become a part of the Royal Rumble match furniture. Why exactly Andre the Giant wasn't given the same treatment is anyone's guess. 1990, the rumors of Mr. Perfect winning the Royal Rumble match. Now, Hulk Hogan won his first of 2 Royal Rumble matches in 1990, a result that is about as shocking as any Roman Reigns' undisputed title defense between 2020 and 2023. But it almost wasn't to be. Well, that is the rumor anyway, as according to an urban legend, it was to be Mr. Perfect that left Orlando as the 3rd Royal Rumble winner. While it would have resulted in a life-altering boost up the card for the late Kurt Hennig, a perfect victory would have made little sense business-wise. It seems that this rumor has never been true, as nobody ever reported this rumor to be fact. And the idea of a heel winning the Royal Rumble in its, well, 3rd incarnation wasn't likely to ever happen. The truth in the matter is that Hogan was always supposed to win. Ultimately, Mr. Perfect was the runner-up in the Royal Rumble, and that was probably for the best. 1991, the most bizarre way a wrestler held a record in the Rumble. Notwithstanding the winner or the runner-up, the Iron Man is arguably the most important player in the Royal Rumble match, and in 1991, the honor fell upon Rick Martel, although it was by accident. Why? Well, the model was never assigned an eliminator, and it took until the final stages of the match for Vince McMahon to actually realize this blunder, sending orders to the ring for Davey Boy Smith to dispose of him. Martel was entrant number 6 and lasted a whopping 52 minutes and 17 seconds, breaking Ted DiBiase's record of 40 minutes before he was then thrown out, mustering 4 eliminations of his own along the way of Saba Simba, Jake Roberts, Jim Neidhart, and Hawk. Now, the record would be broken the next year with Ric Flair just lasting over 1 hour. 1992, WWE edited out the boos for Hulk Hogan. Now, in pro wrestling, you only have a set amount of time as a top guy before audiences become burnt out. By 1992, Hulk Hogan was as popular as Roman Reigns was in 2015. Hogan had been the ace of WWF since 1984, but Hulkamania peaked in 1987, and audiences were desperate for something fresh and exciting. Not that you know it unless you were watching the 1992 Royal Rumble live. You would have missed the raucous cheers when the Hulkster was actually thrown out of the Rumble match by Sid Justice, as a positive reaction was edited off for future airings, including the VHS release, and replaced with mass boos. This has since become common practice for WWE, as negative reactions for subsequent faces of the company, such as Roman Reigns and John Cena, were replaced by dubbed-in cheers. 1993, Vince was really disappointed with Shawn Michaels vs Marty Jannetty. The 1993 Royal Rumble would finally see what we were originally supposed to get at WrestleMania 8. a match between former Rockers partners Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, and now with the added bonus of the Intercontinental title being on the line. Despite many believing that this was going to be one of the greatest matches of all time, as well as Agent Blackjack Lanza pushing it to be the main event of the show, to Shawn and Marty's surprise, Vince was heavily underwhelmed with the match. Jannetty talked about Vince's disappointment in a shoot interview with Hannibal TV, as he mentioned Vince's reaction being very disappointed. "I expected you to all steal the show, and this was far from it." Vince also believed that Marty was drunk in the match, but he put the blame squarely on Shawn for forgetting a lot of spots due to Shawn's drug use and passed out the night before the Rumble. Kurt Hennig was the only one who vouched for Marty and eventually got his job back after being fired the following night after the Rumble. 1994, the real identity of The Undertaker's body double. Losing a WWF Championship casket match to the defending champion Yokozuna after having his soul released from Paul Bearer's urn, yeah really, this was a moment. A red-hot post-match angle saw The Undertaker ascend into the heavens above, having chillingly declared that he would exact vengeance from the grave. Now Taker was legitimately inside the coffin, so it couldn't have been him to ascend to the heavens above. There's a long-standing rumor that it was Marty Jannetty playing The Undertaker ascending above, but it was actually Steve Lombardi, the infamous Brooklyn Brawler, doing his best Undertaker cosplay. 1995, several wrestlers faked a drug test. Although it wasn't as widely reported at the time, hindsight tells us that the 90s were rampant with substance abuse in pro wrestling. Surprise drug tests were often sprung upon WWE superstars at the time to catch out those who were abusing the system. But come the 1995 Royal Rumble, a crooked administrator found himself several $1,000s up after helping rig the test. Shawn X-Pac Waltman recalled the story during a 2005 interview with Pro Wrestling Torch, revealing himself as one of several to have coughed up $200 to have their urine sample be faked. There was one time we beat the test. It was at the Royal Rumble of 1995. It was in Tampa. We started figuring out in our drug addict minds that, okay, they test at house shows, but they don't test us at TVs because there's too much going on at TVs. Same for pay-per-views. They don't test us in non-English speaking countries, so if we go to Europe, we can get away with smoking a joint. We had all these things figured out in our heads, or so we thought. We show up for the pay-per-view, bam, they got it. There's signs up everywhere. Drug testing. We're dirty because he and Scott Hall smoked pot the night before. We're like, oh shit. So guys were going in and taking the test. I was avoiding it all day long, and finally Dave Hebner cornered me. He tricked me into going in. He said somebody wants to talk to you. He had taken the sign down off the door. I walked through the door and bam, they were there with the cups ready. So I'm telling the guys that doing the test, I can't really piss. You could tell I was nervous. I didn't want to get caught. Nobody wants to get caught because it costs you money and you get suspended. He goes, give me $200 and I'll piss for you. I'm telling you, $200 never left my wallet and went into somebody else's hands so quick in my life. I didn't even think that the guy could have been dirty himself if he was pissing into a cup. This guy actually couldn't piss for everybody, but I think he pretty much took a couple of $100 from several people in the company and ended up dumping their samples out. That was the only time I could tell you that that test was beatable. It was because of a corrupt person who was administrating the tests. Waltman as a 1-2-3 kid and Bob Holly actually defeated the $1 Million Corporation for the vacant WWF Tag Team Championships. Had Waltman actually taken the test, there could have been no title change as he would have been suspended. 1996, WWE wanted Sabu to enter the Rumble. Now, in a recent episode of Something to Wrestle With, WWE producer Bruce Pritchard revealed that the company had tried to secure ECW legend Sabu for the 96 Rumble, but this was just going to be a one-off appearance. Pritchard explained that the idea was for Sabu to enter the match and eliminate himself in typical fashion, kind of like diving over the top rope through a table, giving the fans their first taste of ECW in a Royal Rumble. Pritchard first discussed the idea with Paul Heyman, then reached out to Sabu to gauge his interest. Sabu was reportedly open to the plan, but insisted that Pritchard speak with his uncle and mentor, The Sheik, who had significant influence over his career decisions. However, when Pritchard called The Sheik to pitch the appearance, The Sheik declined, saying that the Royal Rumble spot wasn't good for him and therefore not in Sabu's best interest. After that, Pritchard ended the negotiations, expressing frustration at having to deal with a third party instead of working directly with Sabu. Having Sabu in that Rumble probably would have been the best thing, as that Rumble was notoriously awful. 1997, the WrestleMania-sized attendance inflation. A commendable 60,477 filled San Antonio's Alamodome for the 1997 Royal Rumble, which was to see hometown hero Shawn Michaels reclaim the WWF Championship from Psycho Sid. However, that attendance figure is heavily inflated. Of the overall attendance, only 48,014 tickets were purchased by paying customers, meaning that 1/5 of the tickets were actually comped. Furthermore, ticket prices were dramatically slashed in the days leading up to the Rumble to fill as many people into the 64,000-seat venue as possible. Tickets even ranged from $5 to $18. It's obvious that they were aiming way too high for that Rumble. 1998, a WWE referee suffered a legitimate concussion. Referees often find themselves in harm's way in major pro wrestling matches. However, these are all carefully planned spots that help elevate a match's melodrama. Rarely is a referee legitimately hurt during a match, but it does happen, as Jack Doan discovered during the 1998 Royal Rumble match. Presiding over the match at ringside, Doan was crushed when Phineas Godwin was dumped out of the ring, landing directly on the referee's head. Jack was actually immediately taken backstage to receive medical attention, where thankfully the diagnosis was nothing more serious than a concussion. 1999, The Rock actually went overboard with a steel chair. The Rock and Mankind's WWF Title I Quit match is simultaneously one of the greatest matches in Rumble history, but probably one of the most disturbing to witness, as The Rock wailed on Mrs. Foley's baby boy with several unprotected chair shots to the head. Now 11 was the magic number that night, but this was actually 6 more than had been originally planned. The plan was supposedly for The Rock to hit the 5th and final blow to the head in the aisleway to the end of the match, but when the 5th chair shot occurred while they were in the ring, Foley knew he was in for a rough night. This astonishing act of CTE-inducing violence is said to have caused some friction between the former Rock and Sock connection afterwards, though the pair reconciled soon after. 2000, The Undertaker was planned to return 5 months early. Now, the 2000 Royal Rumble is still one of the most acclaimed in history, with particular praise being directed to Triple H and Cactus Jack's barbaric street fight, the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys tables match, and the arrival of ECW icon Taz. But the event came close to boasting another game-changing Attitude Era moment, the birth of The Undertaker's American Badass character. The Taker had actually been absent from television since September 1999 as he recovered from a groin injury, and he was reportedly scheduled to return at the 2000 Rumble in that new gimmick. However, a torn pectoral muscle sidelined him further, and it wouldn't be until May's Judgment Day that the American Badass was born. 2001, R-Truth is the last man standing in WWE. Accounting for both wrestlers and managers, there were 48 individuals involved in the action at Royal Rumble in 2001. But only one remains an active superstar in 2026, that being R-Truth. At the time he was known as K-Quick, he made his Rumble debut match lasting under just 8 minutes before he was thrown out by a returning Big Show. Though he's been on and off with the company for the ensuing 25 years, Truth remains the last man standing from this event. This could change once the 2026 Royal Rumble is in the books, with rumors strongly suggesting that Chris Jericho, who toppled Chris Benoit with an iconic Intercontinental Championship ladder match at the 2001 Rumble, will be returning to WWE in Saudi Arabia. 2002, Maven wrestled while intoxicated. Given that there are 29 eliminations per Royal Rumble match, only a few will stand the test of time, either because they were the match's final dumping or because a moment has been immortalized in Royal Rumble history. For Maven and The Undertaker in 2002, it was the latter. Though not explicitly a star-making moment for Maven, his shock dropkick elimination at Taker brings him back to relevancy whenever January rolls around. However, there's more to this story than meets the eye, as Maven was a little drunk on Jack Daniels when he was tasked with the biggest moment of his young career. Speaking to Chris Van Vliet in 2023, the Tough Enough winner explained the logic behind his drunken Royal Rumble moment. Yeah, he told me, he was like, "Kid, I'm gonna be giving you some color." And he's like, "Why don't you want to take some aspirin in your blood so it comes out?" I told him, "I'm like allergic." And he's like, "Oh, I got you." And he had some like airplane bottles of Jack. And I'm like, luckily for me, he bought it. Jack Daniels is like how most people drink beer for the taste. Yeah, that's me with Jack. 2003, it was the first time the first entrant was the first eliminated. Although he's touted as Mr. WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels has repeatedly made Royal Rumble history, with the Heartbreak Kid being the first man to win the match from #1 position and being one of the 4 back-to-back Rumble winners. But in 2003, he attained a record that nobody else should ever won. Entering first, Michaels became the first #1 entrant to also be the first man eliminated, as Chris Jericho tossed him out in just 2 minutes to set up their WrestleMania 19 collision. This was reportedly done because Shawn had been reluctant to enter the match at all, having just returned from injury 2 months beforehand, so WWE compromised him by having him in the match for just a short length of time. This first in first out method has only been repeated twice since 2003, as it was done by Ric Flair and The Miz in 2007 and 2015 respectively. 2004, it was John Cena's first solo poster appearance. A striking artwork has traditionally accompanied the Royal Rumble, with WWE's marketing and design teams working together perfectly each January to create the accompanying imagery to the biggest match of the year. 1991, 2010, and 2006 are regularly touted as being the best, but in 2004, a more simplistic approach made a subtle piece of history. Featuring a grayed-out John Cena against a plain black background, the poster marks Cena's first solo artwork as he began his ascent to becoming the greatest of all time. He competed on his first WrestleMania that March, winning the United States Championship from The Big Show, and he would also capture his first of 17 World Championships the following year. 2005, Mr. McMahon loved the botched ending. What is inarguably the biggest botch in Royal Rumble history, Batista and John Cena fell out of the ring at the exact same time, leaving WWE scrambling to clean up the mess, all while Mr. McMahon awkwardly sat in the ring after tearing both of his quads. Now, the result saw the match restarted, with the Animal quickly disposing of Cena to end the match as planned. The Animal was actually fearful of losing his job, having botched the biggest moment of his career to date. But luckily for him, Vince McMahon actually loved how the accidental finish played out, as the 2005 Rumble winner detailed to Chris Van Vliet. I can't remember where we were the next day, when I got to the building and someone immediately said, "Vince wants to see you in his office." I was like, here it comes. So I went to his office. My heart is beating in my head. I'm packing my bags. I walk into his office and he's sitting and he's got his crutches beside him. He's all bandaged up. He just starts laughing. He's laughing at the top of his lungs. I was like, "You're not gonna fire me?" He goes, "No, I loved it. It was real. It was so great and it was real and nobody knew what was gonna happen." He loved it. 2006, Booker T's one-off attire. Do you remember this odd attire that Booker T only wore once at the Royal Rumble? Well, before this, a Boxing Day 2005 house show in White Plains, New York left Booker T heading back with a strained groin muscle. It was a minor injury and he wouldn't require a prolonged spell on the sidelines, but it did mean that he had to alter his ring attire slightly, as rather than his traditional trunks, he entered the 2006 Royal Rumble match wearing white tights, which allowed him to hide his compression shorts underneath. Ultimately, the then United States champion managed just 18 seconds in the match before he was thrown out by Chris Benoit. Yeah, the man had to get new attire just for 18 seconds. 2007, Triple H was the original choice to win the Rumble. There have been countless instances of WWE changing the Royal Rumble match winner at the last second, such as Randy Orton's near victory in 2006 and creative pushing for John Cena to win in 2025. In 2007, however, the plan was for Triple H to notch his second Rumble match triumph. Unfortunately, just 3 weeks earlier at the New Year's Revolution, the game suffered a second major quadriceps tear of his career, leaving him sidelined until SummerSlam. WWE subsequently shifted its attention to The Undertaker, who toppled Shawn Michaels out of the ring to win the Rumble, becoming the first number 30 winner in history. As for Triple H, he would have to wait until 2016 for his second Royal Rumble victory, winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in the process. 2008, John Cena's early return shattered CM Punk's dreams. But for the second year in a row, WWE's planned Royal Rumble winner had to be changed at the last minute, though this time it was to the company's benefit. John Cena, returning from a torn pectoral 5 months earlier than planned, won his first Rumble in a breathtaking ending. Though it worked in WWE's favor, it was to the detriment of the rising ECW star CM Punk, who confirmed that he was the planned winner during a 2020 episode of WWE Backstage. Instead of this, Punk was assigned to win that year's Money in the Bank match, using the briefcase successfully as he cashed in on Edge to become the World Heavyweight Champion. To date, Punk has never been crowned as a Royal Rumble winner, with his best performance coming in 2024, as there he was a runner-up behind Cody Rhodes. 2009, Jim Duggan entered his first Royal Rumble in 17 years. Numerous wrestlers have waited over a decade between entering Royal Rumble matches, but the record was actually broken in 2009 by the match's inaugural winner Hacksaw Jim Duggan. This marked his first time entering the 30-man field since the legendary 1992 iteration, marking a 17-year gap between his entrances. Duggan did hold the record until 2019, as Jeff Jarrett's return to WWE in the Royal Rumble match was his first time in the match since 1999, resulting in a 20-year gap for the King of the Mountain. For Jarrett to be knocked off of the podium in 2026, an entrant from the 2005 lineup would have to make their first Rumble appearance since then in Saudi Arabia, although the possibilities are few, as this could only include Daniel Puder, Kenzo Suzuki, and Jonathan Coachman. I don't think that's going to be broken. 2010, it featured one of the shortest pay-per-view matches ever. Squash matches are an economical method used by wrestling promoters to help establish a new wrestler, and they are traditionally reserved for regular programming. Rarely do they occur on pay-per-view, but at the 2010 Royal Rumble, Mickie James and Michelle McCool wrestled one of the shortest pay-per-view bouts in WWE history. Going just 20 seconds, Mickie usurped Michelle to win her final women's title in WWE, as she would be let go from the company just 3 months later. 2011. The Big Show and Kevin Nash's stare-down wasn't actually planned. Famously for WWE and infamously for TNA, Kevin Nash and Booker T both returned to WWE in January 2011 for the gargantuan 40-man Royal Rumble match, both having turned down TNA's request for a main event Mafia reunion. While neither man lasted particularly long in the match, there was a tease for an apparent future match between Big Daddy Cool and The Big Show. Nash, who reprised his Diesel character for the match, stared down The Big Show as the world's largest athlete made his way to ringside. Ultimately, nothing came of their brief WCW reunion, and the stare-down wasn't even planned. Instead, Nash vanished after the Rumble, returning at SummerSlam to begin a storyline with Triple H and CM Punk. 2012. It marked Karma's only match in WWE. There were actually high hopes for Awesome Kong when it was reported that she had signed with WWE, as despite not holding a great track record with its booking and presentation of female stars, WWE always got the best out of its powerhouse women. Tragically, however, a miscarriage sent Kong into a deep depression that saw her quietly leave WWE after just only one match in the company. Entering the 2012 Royal Rumble, Kong competed as Karma, and WWE became the third woman, after Chyna and Beth Phoenix, to enter the all-male match. She even scored an elimination when she tossed Hunico out of the ring. She would reveal that summer that her time as a WWE superstar had ended, though with the advent of the Women's Royal Rumble match, there's always room for her to make a comeback. 2013, The Godfather achieved a very unfortunate record. The 2013 Royal Rumble marked The Godfather's first appearance for WWE in little over 5 years, as he entered the titular match for a pitiful 5 seconds before being dropkicked straight back out by Dolph Ziggler. Even more unfortunately for the Hall of Famer, his performance awarded him a dubious accolade. His 5-second runtime meant that he lasted less than 30 seconds on 3 separate occasions in 3 different decades with 3 distinct gimmicks. Entering the Royal Rumble as Papa Shango, Kama Mustafa, The Good Father, and The Godfather, and his track record is pitiful, but his best performances came under the persona of Kama, as he went 15 minutes and 57 seconds in '96 and 13 minutes and 58 seconds in 1998. 2014, Batista almost missed his cue. That's never a good time for an attire malfunction to occur, but mere moments before you're due to wrestle your first match back in 4 years sounds pretty bad. That was the reality which almost plagued Batista's return to WWE, as a broken zipper on his boot almost resulted in the animal missing his entrance cue. A behind-the-scenes documentary captured the moment in real time, and after finally finding his way to gorilla position, the multi-time world champion arrived with just 2 entrants to go before he returned to active competition. 2015, WWE almost returned to a 40-man format. The 40-man Royal Rumble match from 2011 is widely regarded as the worst Rumble match to date, well, one of them, primarily because WWE didn't have the roster quality to justify boosting the number of entrants. By 2015, however, they did, and there was the talk of the Rumble match once again featuring an inflated number of participants. There were even rumors that given the event's location in Philadelphia, there would be an influx of ECW alumni returning for the match to appeal to the notorious audience, but this failed to materialize. Instead, the ECW portion of the entrant list fell solely upon Bubba Ray Dudley, and the Boogeyman if you wish to include WWE's offshoot ECW. 2016, Shawn Michaels turned down a Royal Rumble return. The 2016 Rumble match featured just 3 surprise entrants: AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, and Triple H. While all 3 were legitimately game-changing additions to the match, WWE's desired 4th surprise would have made the match even more legendary. Now, according to Ric Flair, WWE made an offer for Shawn Michaels to come out of retirement for the match, an offer that the Heartbreak Kid swiftly rebuffed. Having retired with a classic match in 2010 versus The Undertaker, Shawn at that point had no desire to wrestle again, as he instead focused on his backstage responsibilities in WWE. Now, he would eventually return to the ring for an embarrassing Crown Jewel 2018 match, teaming with Triple H against the Brothers of Destruction. Perhaps it would have been better if he actually returned at the Rumble instead. 2017, Kenny Omega entrant number 30. The WWE filled a 2017 Royal Rumble match with a plethora of ready-made megastars, with The Undertaker, Goldberg, and Brock Lesnar having all declared for the Royal Rumble match. But there were strong rumors of one of the hottest free agents in the world at the time joining the match, that being Kenny Omega. Omega, who was fresh off his 6-star classic with Kazuchika Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 11, was in mid-negotiation with New Japan Pro Wrestling at the time, and WWE was reportedly keen on bringing him in for the Rumble. Ultimately, the cleaner re-signed with the King of Sports for another 2 years, putting a nail in the coffin of his potential jump to WWE. 2018, Adam Cole almost played a very different role. And just 24 hours removed from an epic Extreme Rules match versus Aleister Black at NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, Adam Cole was entered into the 2018 Men's Royal Rumble match, receiving a raucous Philadelphia reaction upon doing so, but his role on the night was originally much further down the card. Dave Meltzer reported that the then Undisputed Era leader was originally slated to answer Bobby Roode's United States Championship Open Challenge on the evening's pre-show, though WWE got cold feet on introducing Cole this way and fed Mojo Rawley instead to the glorious one. And the Rumble match itself, Adam Cole lasted shy of 7 minutes before being booted out by a returning Rey Mysterio, marking the end of his only Royal Rumble experience. 2019, The Rock was penciled in as the Royal Rumble winner. Thankfully, Roman Reigns recovered from the injury from his leukemia in time to compete at WrestleMania 35, where he defeated Drew McIntyre. But the original plan before his diagnosis was for the big dog to defend the Universal title against the originally selected Royal Rumble winner, that being The Rock. This came out at the time via the reliable WrestleVotes in December 2018, 2 months after Reigns' unfortunate announcement and vacating of the title. As for the Brahma Bull, he remained absent from WWE programming until October 2019, while his first match wasn't until WrestleMania 40. There he and Reigns toppled Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins in the Night 1 main event. Just imagine the scenes if The Rock actually won the Rumble that year though. 2020, an accident convinced Edge he could actually return. And nothing will top the worldwide joy felt by wrestling fans when Edge returned to the ring at the 2020 Royal Rumble, 9 years after he was forced into medical retirement. The Rated R superstar looked as though he hadn't missed a beat and would eventually finish the match in 3rd place behind Roman Reigns and the winner, Drew McIntyre. Rumors of his comeback had already begun swirling after he got physical with Elias at the previous year's SummerSlam. But it was actually a mountain bike workout with Sheamus that made Edge realize that a return to active competition was actually possible. The WWE Hall of Famer detailed his journey to get medically cleared during an interview with ESPN. It started dawning on me that this could be a possibility when Sheamus came to town and we were filming an episode of his Celtic Warrior workout show. He wanted to do different challenging things that he hadn't done before, and I love to mountain bike. In the process of doing that, this stupid competitive thing, I'm flying down a mountain, I hit this one jump and I wiped out. It's a pretty gnarly wipeout. I was going probably 20-25 miles per hour, landing on these stones, rolled up to my feet. But I'm fine. I was all cut up but my neck was fine. Couple that with doing all these fight scenes over the years on sets, some pretty physical stuff, especially with Vikings, and I thought, okay, I feel really good. Edge explained that WWE sent a ring down to him to practice in, which allowed him to return at the level he's always wrestled at. I was keeping up with them, Beth Phoenix and Dash Wilder. I wasn't tired and I wasn't sore, and I thought, okay, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen at a level that I wanted. I didn't want to come back and be anything less than what I was. I'm going to have to work differently, we're going to have different limitations. I still want to be able to go in there and be able to go half an hour. Edge definitely made one of the most impressive showings from a Royal Rumble return. 2021, Charlotte Flair almost won back-to-back Royal Rumbles. Charlotte Flair's victory in the 2025 Women's Royal Rumble match made her the first 2-time women's winner since the match was introduced in 2018, but to date there has yet to be a back-to-back female victor. However, in 2021, that honor almost went to the Queen herself. According to Chris Dunn, a former creative writer with WWE, the company was backing Charlotte as the Rumble winner until Ryan Ward, the current vice president of creative writing, convinced Mr. McMahon otherwise. In the end, Bianca Belair was declared the winner, while Flair finished in 3rd place behind the EST and the runner-up Rhea Ripley. 2022, the WrestleMania 38 sign caught on fire. Now, while the 2022 Royal Rumble was a relatively bleak evening, it was actually a scorching night for those inside the dome at the Amway Center, as the WrestleMania 38 sign caught ablaze on 2 separate occasions. The first occurred after Becky Lynch's successful Raw Women's Championship match versus Doudrop, which the man referenced on social media after the fact. As for the second time, that was seemingly caused by pyro that went off following Brock Lesnar's Royal Rumble match victory in the main event. Luckily for WWE, all the fans in the vicinity of the sign were unharmed from the incidents. 2023, Bray Wyatt wrestled his final televised match. Tragically, Bray Wyatt passed away following a heart attack on August 24, 2023. Aged just 36, the real-life Wyndham Rotunda left behind his wife JoJo Offerman and his 4 young children. Sadly, the Royal Rumble in 2023 marked Wyatt's final ever televised match, as he defeated LA Knight in a Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. His official final match came the following month at the live event in Rockford, Illinois, where he also felled a megastar, this time in a lights-out street fight. 2024, Jacob Fatu was in the crowd as a fan. Now, it's uncommon for non-WWE wrestlers to attend the company's events as paying customers, with a notable example being future AEW Women's World Champion Britt Baker being in attendance for the 2015 Rumble. Come the 2024 Rumble, however, Jacob Fatu was in the crowd for the very show that he would partake in just 1 year later. Spotted in the crowd alongside his cousin Zilla Fatu, Samoan Werewolf was supporting the Usos as Jay and Jimmy started the match at numbers 1 and 2 respectively. Fast forward a year and Jacob was entering the match himself, lasting a respectable 24 minutes and 16 seconds and scoring 4 eliminations. And 2025, the first time this would ever happen in a Rumble. Chelsea Green has leaned greatly into the comedic aspect of her character since returning to WWE in 2023, so much so that on her first night back in the company, she hilariously lasted just 5 seconds in the Royal Rumble match. By 2025 though, one WWE writer was ready for her to win the whole thing. As revealed on WWE Unreal, Ed Koskey made a creative pitch for Green that would have seen her enter the match as its final entrant, with the other 29 combatants having already been eliminated. She would have won by default. Sadly, WWE opted against this pitch and instead booked Charlotte Flair to win the match in a return to competition. As for Green, she lasted 26 minutes and 52 seconds, eventually being disposed of by her tag team partner Piper Niven, albeit accidentally. But there you have it, folks. One mind-blowing fact from every WWE Royal Rumble. Did you know these facts? Let us know in the comments down below. I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.